Hello, everyone. This is Ken Ripley, and we're here with our superintendent of the Fort Stockton ISD, Dr. Gabe Zamora, and we're going to be talking about tomorrow's Fort Stockton ISD bond election. Election day will be tomorrow, May 7th, on Saturday, and the polls will be open from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. tomorrow in your voting precinct. So, Dr. Zamora, welcome to our show today and helping to spread information about this Fort Stockton ISD bond.
Good morning, Mr. Ripley. Once again, thank you for the chance to come in and share some information about this very important matter.
All right, so Dr. Zamora, we've covered a lot of different topics on our interviews here on KFST, and I know that you may want to touch on some things that have not been mentioned so far, but we're going to start with the tax implications of this bond. Talk about how the $110 million will be paid for and what it means to taxpayers.
I think that's a great place to start because it's one of the most confusing of the issues, and I've spoken with tons of folks out there, and when I get the chance to speak to them directly, they understand and they come out with the knowledge of just how beneficial this whole program is because of the unique set of circumstances that Fort Stockton finds itself in. The $110 million bond, in all of our ads, we've been pushing that it will not result in a tax rate increase. And I think it's important to mention, and I'm going to say this a couple of times, that not voting or if these propositions were to fail will not result in a tax rate decrease. So that's where we find ourselves. The school district doesn't operate the same as other entities. We only collect what we need to collect to operate based on what the state dictates, and then what we need to collect to repay our debts. And because property values are going up, and that's something that the appraisal district and the state control, not the district, we will make the adjustment. And right now, based on the estimates that I've received from Mr. Calderon, it's 99% that not only will we not increase the tax rate, but we will decrease the tax rate under most sets of circumstance.
Okay. And that's, of course, taxes are calculated on valuations of real estate and also minerals in the Fort Stockton ISD and across Pecos County. So that is important to know. So again, the tax rate will not increase with the passage of the bonds. And even, like you said, if the bonds do not pass, it would probably not result in a tax decrease as well, as you said. And I don't know if you want to try to explain that a little bit, but that might be something we might touch on.
I think that's a good subject because so many folks, this statement that the law requires us to have in the propositions.
Right.
That statement reads. And
this is on the propositions on the ballot.
On each of the propositions, the statement is, "This is a property tax increase," and that is not completely accurate. And yet, each of the propositions it has to say it. There's an article floating around in the state for the 130 or so school districts that are pushing to have a bond election here in May. And if I remember correctly, there are only 9 or 10 school districts that find themselves in a situation such as ours where no tax rate increase is required. In other words, we're not asking for additional pennies, and based on the valuations of the projected numbers that we receive from the appraisal district, the tax rate will be decreased.
Okay, so let's talk about now the 5 propositions that are on the ballot for tomorrow. We've had in the entire county 1,104 people voting early, and then I don't know how many of those exactly in the Fort Stockton ISD, maybe around 780 to 800, something like that. But tomorrow's voting 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at your voting precinct. And it's important to go out and cast your vote. Proposition A through E, there's 5 different propositions. Totaling $110 million. Proposition A is for $84 million for educational facilities and transportation, like buses and vehicles. Now, that represents a big chunk of the bond. The educational percentage of the bond is over 76%, correct, Dr. Zamora?
Yes, sir. And that can only be used for things related to academics, education, support services, security, things of that nature that only benefit our kids. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, Ken, and we really want to show our teachers that we support them, during these tough times. And I believe that the pay system that the board has already looked at implementing is going to reward our staff members. And we're not done yet, because everything is based off of the set of circumstances that we're dealing with. And with these propositions, depending on whether they succeed or not, the district will have to reevaluate. Now, the promise has been made that we will increase the salaries for the teachers that are carrying the heaviest load, probably in the greatest amount ever in the district. But yet we're not done, because if these were to pass, then those salaries might go even higher. And that also applies to our staff members. I know that with inflation and times being tough, the district has to step up and take care of our folks, and that's what we intend to do, whether these things pass or not. But the extent to which we can take care of them does hang in the balance based off what occurs here. With that teacher appreciation, it's important that we show that we support them. And the last time that we spoke, we said we're in a competition to attract folks, teachers and staff members. And the support for the school district is something that people look at. What are they doing? And I hope that the folks of Fort Stockton are able to show both the teachers that are already here and any future prospective teachers that might come into the district that they support FSISD by going to vote for Fort Stockton.
All right. Now, the money that's raised from this bond all stays in the Fort Stockton ISD to improve our district, and none of it is shared with the state.
Absolutely. And we want to keep our money local. We're in a blessed position when compared to most districts in the state, and you can fact check me on this. I believe that we're at least in the top 33 to 35% of lowest tax rates in the state. The newspaper can show you some of the tax rates associated with districts that you might know. I'll mention a certain district that we compete against who has a tax rate of approximately $1.40, and our tax rate is below $1.13. And it's going lower.
And which district is that has the $1.40 tax rate?
You put me on the spot like that. How about I just leave it at a district that we compete against?
Okay. Now, Dr. Zamora, let's just sort of give an overview of all the bonds rather than going one by one this time.
Sure.
Because we can talk about all the projects that are planned for the bonds as a whole. Proposition A is $84 million for educational facilities and transportation. B is for $12 million for stadium facilities, field house, turf, track, stadium needs, and a multi-purpose sports facility. Proposition C, $6 million for additional employee housing, $3 million for technology devices, and $5 million for a city and county and school district project for a new recreation center. So all of those mentioned here, let's talk about all of the things that those bonds would accomplish.
Well, number one, what it would accomplish is it frees up the money that the district currently has so that we can invest it into our students, staff, and community. Because if you go and visit the dashboard and the comprehensive analysis of our facilities that is on our website, you can see that there are a lot of things that have to be completely renovated. They've been allowed to degrade. There was a faction of individuals that I've talked to that are upset about what has become of the FFA facilities, and I've told them each time that I've spoken individually with them that the retrofit, the upgrade of our career, technology, and education facilities is included in this bond. So if you are upset at what it was allowed to become, It didn't happen in the 11 months that I've been here.
You mean, and you're talking about the FFA barn in particular?
Yeah, that's exactly it. But that's not the only thing that we're looking at.
Right.
Our auto tech shop that essentially became a storage place, we're looking at revamping and bringing that program back. All of those things are contingent on, and we're going to push to try to do them regardless, but how fast we get it done depends on how we have to budget our monies, because there's $51 million worth of repairs and renovations that need to take place. That exceeds what the district's fund balance is, and beyond that, we need to take care of our folks right now, especially with what's happening in our country with inflation and the cost of goods.
Well, the FFA facility is in seriously bad shape, so that might be one of your top priorities, because and to get that done quickly, I don't know, but it would seem to me that it would need to be done quickly. And your career and technology education, like cosmetology, which you're bringing back, and the auto mechanics. So touch on those things a little bit more.
Times are changing. The period where we lived in for a bit, where the only way that one could get ahead is to go to college, it's evolving. And we have to stay competitive and ahead of the game with offering our students the opportunities to multitask, right? Not that you have to choose one path or the other, and the system that we're looking at implementing is going to allow for our kids that want to pursue college to do so here locally, but also if they want to diversify, pursue one of the career technical education programs such as auto tech, cosmetology, maybe expand on what we're already doing for the nursing assistant program, our metalworks. All of those things are extremely important. I love FFA. I founded the chapter along with some of my staff at my previous district. There's not a lot of superintendents that can say that.
Right.
I hope that the folks can look beyond what has happened in the past, look at the present and the future, and understand that the district is intertwined with both the county and the city, and in multiple ways. But let's take our internet. Our technology center is the hub for most of what's going on in the city and in the county. Mm-hmm. And that's something that Ms. Ezel, our technology director, is extremely proud of, and that was a big accomplishment when it occurred. The educational facilities transportation portion, that we have in the paper, we're limited to one page. That it's a comprehensive thing. The security, the cameras, the access to our facilities, those things all can fall under that. Mm-hmm. The technology logistics, the actual infrastructure portion of it mm-hmm. falls under that. So all of these are things that benefit Fort Stockton. And just to reiterate, there are a ton of superintendents out there that think that how they're deemed as successful is based on just a complete, did we put money in the bank at the end of the year? I look at it differently. While I've never not surplused as a superintendent, and this is going to be my 7th year, the money is to invest in our students' educations and in our staff and community. And if you are penny pinching so that you at the end of the year can say I'm surplusing, you're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. And that's not the mentality of most supers, but I believe that when I speak to people, they can grasp that. And right now my school board also grasps that. This money needs to be spent on our kids, on our staff, our community. It needs to be done in a wise manner. And that's exactly what we're going to do if we find ourselves in the situation where these propositions pass.
And, of course, quite a few local contractors would be used on many of these projects. Some of these projects local contractors can handle.
Absolutely. And not only that, I believe that keeping the money local is the best thing that we can do. Now, there are certain projects, because of the bidding process, that have to be bid out. But if they fall under a certain number, those projects we can use local vendors and show a little bit of love to our community, because so many of these vendors employ other Fort Stockton residents.
Right. All right. So we've also got a plan to renovate all existing campuses using this detailed comprehensive analysis that you did. We've also got the renovation of the high school auditorium. We've got replacements of HVAC systems. So there's a lot of things, including the inner workings of our school buildings, that are going to be upgraded.
And they need it. You know, we're looking at opening the Butts campus back up as an alternative education of choice facility to offer services to students who are in danger of dropping out, accelerate them to get them back into the normal campuses, and to do it while they're younger rather than older, but also offer that same chance to our students that are at the high school. That's an older facility, just like many of the others that date back, heck, 80, 90 years, and they need the love. We need to take care of our facilities to set ourselves back up for success. And, you know, I want to address something that I've heard a couple of times from different individuals who I've spoken with in the community, and some very smart people. But we fall into the trap of thinking that this isn't the right time. Yes, this is maybe a good plan, and y'all have taken the time and diligence to put together something that was professionally conducted in an analysis, but it's not the right time because of what's going on in our country. We can all see the inflation. We can all see the prices of things going up. And one of the few hedges that individuals, or the benefits of inflation is that as the dollar inflates, if you're locked into a specific loan amount over the course of time, it becomes easier to make those payments. But you can only take advantage of that if you lock in before that inflation goes haywire. And I think that it's important that folks understand that. I told you personally, Ken, I put my money where my mouth is as far as buying property here in Fort Stockton, both a home and a commercial business property, and that's because I needed to get out of being liquid and going into something that is an asset that inflation is going to or hedge against that inflation. And I know those are complicated matters, and not everybody would agree with me, but I'll tell you what, if we do go through the craziness that some people are projecting, I'd rather have locked this money in and have already put it to work and have the assets, the buses that we might be able to buy. And these numbers are not accurate, but let's say we buy 10 buses, and those 10 buses cost us $2 million. And then in 5 years from now, those same buses are now at $10 million. What is it better to have? The asset, the buses that you bought that are only 5 years old?
Right.
Or those $2 million that you never spent to begin with?
Well, interest rates only went up about 0.25%, so, hopefully the bonds will not be that much more expensive. But the point is that you've already delayed once, probably for 2 years, the board did, due to COVID. And, some people would argue, well, because of inflation, we need to delay longer. And so you're arguing that we should that's exactly why we should do this now.
To keep our money here, to allow the district to continue to work with the city and county and expand on that work, to keep our money for the residents of Fort Stockton, because if things were to get worse, especially significantly worse, we want to be in a strong position, not in a weaker position then.
Okay, so we've talked about the bonds extensively during these radio interviews, and I think the one of the main points of controversy or confusion about the bond is taxes and the impact that the bond would have on your tax rate. And you've already talked about that it will not result in a tax rate increase. You have no control over property values, and that a no vote or a non-passage of the bonds would not really result in a tax decrease. So, might want to explain that one more time to the voters prior to tomorrow's final vote on the bond.
Thank you so much for revisiting that. I think that is the most important thing that folks need to know. In all of the ads, you can read, tax rate will not be increased. Matter of fact, we already know, because the pie is growing larger, that most likely we're going to decrease the tax rate. And the board has gone out and made the promise and the commitment that they will not increase the tax rate. Because we can stagger when we issue the bonds, we have control of that. We have a fund balance in that debt services to ensure that we can keep that promise to our folks. And we're not going to, this will be done wisely. And to reiterate, a vote against the proposition will not result in a lower tax rate. Now, we may have a lower tax rate regardless, but it will not save you any money to vote against the proposition. And there is a scenario, Ken, and I didn't want to say this, but I'm going to because I think it's that important that people know, and that way they can reference this interview. There is a scenario where tax rate could possibly go up if this were to not go through. And the reason for that is that the 9.5 cents, nearly 10 cents that we've dropped from 2019 to now, those are pennies that we were showing as good faith that we're going to honor and try to keep it as low as we possibly can. But they were also pennies that could have been used to already have made more of a dent into the current bond. So isn't that a heck of a scenario where you have a promise that tax rate will not go up and 99% will decrease because the pie has grown larger, the property valuations has grown larger, and we only collect what we need. But if they weren't to pass, then maybe at that point it has to go up some.
Well, each district, as you said, has an individual scenario, and so we're one of the few in the state that could pass a bond like this without the tax rate going up, and so that is a good situation to be in.
Indeed it is, and even fewer to where the tax rate doesn't have to go up. The tax rate is going to go down. Mm-hmm. The tax rate is going to go down. We have nothing to do with the valuations, as we said before. That's the appraisal district under the pressure that the state places on them, and you know, are the taxes that are collected by the other entities don't have anything to do with the school. You know, we are our own entity, and the taxes are determined on an annual basis based on formula funding and what the state says that we must collect. And then the other little portion of it is the amount that we collect to repay our debts. So that's why we have such control of it, to be in a position where these things can pass and the tax rate decrease is amazing. And the circumstances that we're in, we need to take care of Fort Stockton. We need to take care of our folks. And this is one way that they can do it, by going out and voting for Fort Stockton.
All right, so we'll know by tomorrow night whether the bond has passed or not. So, Dr. Zamora, I know you want to encourage people to go vote and vote their heart and mind, as you've said in our ads.
I do, Ken. I want to tell them to go out and vote, you know, use their hearts, their minds, to not listen to some of the crazy stuff that's being said out there, because I don't think that those individuals are willing to put it on paper like in the form of an ad, or to come on here on the record and make the statements. Have faith in the individuals from Fort Stockton, those 7 board members that have pushed us to this point, that have, you know, listened to my recommendations. Have faith in me, and have faith in the reasons why I came here, because it wasn't money. I came here because I saw a community with a bunch of potential and a lot of economically disadvantaged kids that needed somebody who could do it in a different way, not just to kick the can down the road, to do it, to be in education, to choose to be in this profession, to help others, truly, not because, this is what my family's always done, because of what my family's always done is, I mean, neither one of my folks finished high school, and yet I'm still very proud because of the work ethic that they have, that they had, and you know, the direction that they pushed us, and the educators that helped me along the way. After 24 years of service in the military, and as a superintendent going on 7 years this May, I'm hoping that folks have faith that we're doing it for the right reasons and can support Fort Stockton. Go out and vote with your hearts and minds. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Mr. Ripley.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Zamora. And that's going to wrap it up for today's interview. Election day is tomorrow. Polls will be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. in your voting precinct in the Fort Stockton ISD election. And this is Ken Ripley for KFST AM and FM.